get one or two kettlebells with you and really get you going and get you a great workout. And consistently over and over and over, the volume of training that you can do with kettlebells, I have found can surpass traditional barbell training. And once again, that's depending on programming.
Welcome to the Wits and Weights podcast. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and this twice-a-week podcast is dedicated to helping you achieve physical self-mastery by getting stronger, optimizing your nutrition, and upgrading your body composition. We'll uncover science-backed strategies for movement, metabolism, muscle, and mindset with a skeptical eye on the fitness industry so you can look and feel your absolute best. Let's dive right in. Welcome to another episode of Wits and Weights. Wil Del Pizzo joins me on today's show to talk about kettlebell training, the three big lifts, programming in a group setting and for youth sports, and advice for trainers and coaches. Wil has been in the fitness industry for over 13 years, specializing in kettlebell and strength training. He's a former strength coach for the Chatsworth High School baseball team, which has produced several high-level athletes and professionals. Wil's the owner of Built Strong Strength Club, where you can also find downloadable programs and other free resources for kettlebells, strength and power, and the big three at builtstrongstrength.com. Wil, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's start with your story. Just briefly tell us how you got interested in fitness and lifting that got you to where you are today.
So I was in another industry before I even got into the fitness world, but I was that typical gym rat. So I was a high school athlete and we lifted poorly as you do in high school.
Sure.
Right. Football and track and stuff like that. It's about volume and moving as much weight as you can and not necessarily the safest. That's evolved a lot in high schools, But, went to college and I got into broadcasting, but I was just kind of a gym rat. Got back at the gym in my early 20s and just kind of stayed there. And like any young buck, I was all about upper body, did very little legs.
The guns,
yeah, right. Because that's what's the most impressive part is those big cannons. But did that stuff, and then over the years, I've just kind of evolved and kind of always kind of kept coming back into the industry until I went, well, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. So what do I do, and what do I know how to do? One was play rock and roll, and the other one was to lift weights. So I said, well, let's do both. Hey, why not? Let's go and have a good time, right?
That's awesome. That's funny because I used to be a musician myself, and I could see some similarities between those things and how you think. But so you've been in the fitness industry now solid for about 13 years, right?
Yeah, coming up on 14. Yeah, about 13 years. Yeah.
And you specialize, so this is one thing I want to kind of clue in on a little bit. You specialize in kettlebell training. And I want to talk about that because I don't think we've talked about that on the show. My experience with kettlebells was through CrossFit. I did CrossFit for 8 years. And I did a lot of Russian kettlebell swings and, in my WODs. And I do have a kettlebell handle for my dumbbells at home where I pull it out after deadlifts or something for some posterior work. But why kettlebells for strength training?
Bang for the buck. Mostly it's bang for the buck. It's really kind of all encompassing. I can build strength, I can build muscle, I can build power, and I can get a cardio or aerobic workout kind of all in there. And you can kind of mess with parameters like any program. You can kind of mess with parameters and do that type of stuff. So it's really kind of bang for the buck for me. As athletes and athletes that I train, posterior chain is big.
Okay.
You really need to get strong glutes, strong hams, strong lower back, strong stuff like that. So it's really kind of helps with that explosiveness and all that conditioning and stuff like that. So I know as a tool, I can use a kettlebell and get a whole lot of work done as opposed to like barbells, dumbbells, cables, bands, all that other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with all that other stuff. I'm a deadlifter by kind of heart.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But just with kettlebells, I know I can get one or two kettlebells with you and really get you going and get you a great workout. And consistently over and over and over, the volume of training that you can do with kettlebells, I have found can surpass traditional barbell training. And once again, that's depending on programming. You can get into the weeds
I get it.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. So that's interesting because what you just said there is, the mode of your training and what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish is the one of the most important considerations. So you said speed work, power, and also conditioning, and that makes a lot of sense. Would you say somebody who just has purely a strength goal that isn't an athlete and looking for explosiveness or speed or conditioning is better off with barbells, or is there still a place for the kettlebells in that context?
I'm biased.
Okay.
I'm biased. Here's the thing with bells, though. Like, there's a learning curve. You got to put time into them. There's little nuances with them that you kind of have to figure out and do. We don't call it training. We call it practice. We practice with the bells.
Okay.
But you have to work with them and get comfortable with them. If it's one of those things you're just going to kind of randomly pick up every once in a while, you're going to get beat up a little bit, as opposed to, and I'm not knocking any of these, but like a bench press, you can kind of think there's nuances to the bench press, but you can kind of get underneath the barbell and kind of muscle around a little bit. The kettlebell, if you try to fight it, it just chews you up so badly that you kind of have to put it down and reassess what you're doing, what's going on. So in terms of like strength, the way the loads are and the way we can adjust those things, you can build a lot of strength in a short amount of time with the kettlebell.
Cool. Yeah. My next question was going to just segue into barbells because I'm biased on that side. And I'm actually getting more intrigued by the kettlebells because a good friend of mine, he's also a coach here in Enfield. His name is Andrew Romeo. He came from a CrossFit background, so now it's more strength and conditioning. There's a ton of different kettlebells, and I'm like, what else could we do with those? So what if you just gave us a quick snapshot of what either an individual workout would look like? Like, let's say you're working lower body, what that might look like using kettlebells. So
I like to do Turkish get-ups as a warm-up.
Oh, get-ups, got it.
Right, yeah. So if you want to think,
that takes skill, yeah.
I mean, but you can break that. Even if you break it down into segments, you can still get a lot out of the Turkish get-up. So like a Turkish get-up would be a warm-up, 3x1.
Hold on, just explain the Turkish get-up for people.
So Turkish get-up, basically you're lying on the ground with a kettlebell over your chest. Mm-hmm. And you continue to hold it overhead and over your chest as you try to stand up.
As you stand up.
Right. So there's various movements in there. It promotes hip mobility, shoulder mobility, hip stability, shoulder stability, spine, core, legs. It gets everything. So as a warm-up, it's great as kind of a warm-up because you're just kind of priming the gears a little bit to get ready to go. So I would start with some Turkish get-ups, 3x1s, 3 sets of 1 on each side with a moderate weight. If you want to go heavy is a relative term, but with a moderate weight, sure. Just to kind of get everything going. I would throw some goblet squats in there. First session so that would be my warm up. A strength session would be goblet squats, any form of goblet squats. That's where you hold the bell kind of in front of your chest and you do squats. Yep. Single rack squats with one bell over the side, double rack squats. You can do various squats like that. You can even do lunges or everybody's favorite Bulgarian split squats.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't found somebody who actually loves those. Maybe one runner that I knew, but yeah.
Well, that's a sick individual right there. Sick person. So we can do stuff along that lines, maybe even some cleans to work on that posterior chain to get that pull in there, to get some lats and some shoulders in there. And if you want to go like bare bones, then I would end with some kettlebell swings, like 10 by 10s, 10 every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. Yep. So get your 100 swings in. So that way you kind of get the whole lower body workout and get a good kind of cardio workout in there also. And that would be really, 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 really basic bare bones.
No, that's great. Just so people get an idea of the versatility of the kettlebell and how you can load it, right? Again, I haven't learned much about it other than like maybe Dan John. I know he's big into kettlebells. Guys like that, and I can respect it. When you hear a guy talking about it like that, and he's a big, strong dude that's trained a lot of athletes and Olympic lifters, there's respect for that. So let's move over to barbells now.
Okay.
And we'll start with the big three, but then I want to add another one to that in a bit. And I incorporate personally these the barbell movements multiple times every week, in some capacity, and the listeners hear me talk about them a lot. But I just love to hear your perspective as an experienced trainer and strength coach. Like, talk about barbells.
Barbells is kind of a staple. I'm not a big power clean guy. I'm not a big jerk guy. I'm not a big like barbell snatch guy.
Yep.
I'd rather do a kettlebell snatch. Hey, but I'm not a big like barbell snatch guy. Like I can teach it and I have taught it. It's the nuances of it. Once again, you really got to break down the lift, like 6 weeks of this, 6 weeks of that, 6 weeks of that. So we kind of stripped those away and we just kind of do the big three here at our facility. So that'd be the deadlift, the bench, and the squat, because you can get the most out of those lifts. They're the most compound. You can make arguments for the bench about the functionality of it.
Sure.
There's not a lot of times you're going to be on your back, like pushing a truck off your chest, but hey, don't kill the sacred cow. But you can, you know.
Well, I've heard that argument, but then the counter argument is the leverage you get with that allows you to push a lot more load than say the overhead press, right? So it gives you a little extra stimulus. Yeah. Continue. Right.
Well, yeah, and with the bench, like it's really sports specific. Like a football player, like a lineman, I'd be like, yeah, you need a bench press because that's all you're doing is just that forward pushing motion. So yeah, that makes sense to me. But with the big three, you kind of hit everything. The deadlift, you kind of hit everything. The bench, you kind of hit everything. And the squat, you kind of get everything. You get that lat you get that lat activation. You're grinding yourself into the ground. You got to brace your core. You kind of have to incorporate everything into them. So, and in terms of functionality, I think we all understand what a squat is. Like how purposeful that is. We do that every day. And the deadlift, the hip hinge.
Oh yeah.
We all
the time. Yeah.
Yeah. All the time. We all pick up stuff poorly all the time. So just the hip hinge and the squat alone. Like if the workout gods came down and said, no more exercises, you only get one, choose the squat.
Love it. I'm right with you 100%. 100%.
All day. You can just squat all day. So we incorporate a lot of that in our training here. We base a lot of our training here at the facility on those big three lifts. Yeah.
And you touched on a few other things. I mean, first that you said, if that's the only thing you can do, why the squat? It's the squat. And it touched on the fact that you activate some of these other muscle groups, right? There's a lot of stabilization and isometrics going on. And people listening, you mentioned the core, you mentioned the lats. There's so many things. Are you frozen? Or not?
No, I'm here.
Oh, no. Wow, you're just like super still. Okay. Make sure
I'm focusing. Focusing.
That's some mindfulness there. You're listening. That's something I got to keep getting better at. So yeah, just like when somebody says, how do I get a six pack? It's like, well, do you squat? like start there, but then of course, once you're super strong and you want to go develop your physique further, you can throw other things in. So I love that on the squat. Do you do the low bar or high bar, or you mix it up?
So myself, I do a high bar squat. I just find that's the most comfortable for me. In terms of our classes, we do every type of squat. So it's not like you come in so Friday's our squat day. Mondays are our deadlift day. Wednesday's our bench day. And then Friday's our squat day. Just the top programming. Sure. So we do every type of squat. Right. So I'm doing back squats. I'm doing box squats. I'm doing banded squats. I'm doing front squats. I'm doing Zercher squats, which Zercher. Yeah. Split squats, so I don't think we've ever repeated a workout. So if we come in and just do a normal everyday squat, we'll do threes, right? Doing reps of 3. It might be 3 months, maybe 4 before you just come back to a regular squat.
So in that context, are your clients trying to, this is a group context, right? Yeah,
let's go into the group context. Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, I do it with all my clients.
So how do they progress? Like how do you know they're getting stronger if they're varying the squats? Are they testing 1RMs on different variants regularly, or what's the progression scheme?
So that depends on the person.
Okay.
I have some people who 50, 60-year-olds, no reason to 1 rep max them.
No, sure.
You know what I mean? There's no reason to do that stuff.
That's a skill in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We're just trying to be healthy and that stuff like that. I keep immaculate records. Mm-hmm. So I will keep the same weight, go more reps, go more weight, less reps. So we just have those kind of barometers. Depth is a big thing, your mobility and stuff like that. in terms. So that's the one-on-ones. Like all my clients and all our classes, I base it off the big three, and I force kettlebells onto people.
Okay,
but I work them in because I'm such an advocate of them. But so yeah, in terms of stuff like that, you kind of have to go with the individual. With classes, we keep, once again, kind of immaculate records. We see what's going on, and people know what's happening when they're lifting more. They're 5 rep PR and they're 3 rep PR. When they come back to it, they know where they're at.
Got it.
And so we do have strength contests here where we log everything, so we can kind of see, like, 6 months ago you were doing 100 pounds, and now you're doing 150 pounds. I mean, that's a serious increase. So we kind of keep those records just to kind of let them know where they're at.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious because that's super important. We talk about all the time, as well as progressive overload and making sure you're actually training harder each time. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I just recently finished a bulk and in December, and I was doing a conjugate or West Side style program. And every Monday and Tuesday, I'm doing a different variant of a lift. Usually rotate through like 6 or 7 and don't come back to the same lift till like 8 weeks later. But that involves testing 1RMs too. It's a whole different thing. Yeah.
And they're 10 by 1s and they're maxing on every day. I read a lot of the West Side Barbell stuff. Love their stuff. I mean, you just got to concede to the fact that they know what they're talking about. So we take a little bit of what they do. I take a little bit of what they do. And then we kind of follow on the back end of it with doing little lifts behind to enhance the deadlift, to enhance the bench, to enhance the
accessories.
Squat, yeah.
So one of my favorite lifts is the fourth lift that we haven't talked about, the overhead press, right? Often called the fourth lift. So, I like the fact that it's hard and it's, you have to be careful how you progress, and it seems to require more volume to actually progress. But where does that fit into all this from your perspective? I'll do an overhead lifts. We have a specific arm class. I'll do overhead lifts. I bench that. I pair that with the bench. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So I pair that with the bench. So we will do that overhead lifts. We don't have a specific, like the fourth day is the overhead, overhead press day. I don't know the need for it. It's kind of one of those activities. It's like, I get it. Everybody says like it's really satisfactory to like pick heavy weight up and push it over your head. I would say it's more fun to pick up heavy weight off the floor in a deadlift.
Hey, it doesn't have to be a competition.
Yeah. Right. It's
do it all.
You do what you want. So I do a lot of overhead pressing, a lot of singular overhead pressing, that barbell overhead pressing. You'll get a lot of that hyperextending in that back with a lot of people. And so they want to sit way into it.
And the load gets heavy.
And now it's kind of a risk reward type thing for me. So we'll work in some overhead, or I'll work in some overhead press with a lot of clients. But we'll stay kind of below the shoulder a little bit and work a little bit more mobility and stuff like that, as opposed to just raw power overhead.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because it used to be an Olympic lift, right? Years ago. And then they got rid of it in like the 60s because of some controversy between Russia and the US. There's a whole story behind that.
There's been some controversy between Russia and the US.
Yeah. Some different, I know, right?
There's been one or two.
Anyway, so I want to talk about group classes. Before that, I see that you're TRX certified. I wanted to ask about TRX suspension training because I personally haven't done it. I've heard it talked about. The guys on like Mind Pump, another great podcast I listen to, talk about it all the time. And I've even recommended it to some clients because of their equipment situation. So can you explain what you can do with that kind of suspension training?
Everything.
Okay.
So it's great. I found it great for progressions. Some people can't do they can't push up. They can't do a push up off the floor. They just lack the coordination. They might lack the core strength. They might just lack pure strength in order to get a proper push-up. And, we start from the plank. Okay, let's get a strong plank, and we kind of build up from there. But it allows me to adjust the difficulty very quickly and instantaneously so we can still get a push-up motion going and learn how to activate that core. Learn how to move everything in the same area. It's great for pulling exercises. we're really smashing those rhomboids together and really, really working on that scapular control, which a lot of people need a lot of work with, for their shoulder stability. Squats all day long. People need that, not cushioning, but they need the handles in order to make sure they can sit down and stay proper, keep their proper posture, because they just don't have the mobility, and so it gives them that little extra sense of cushioning and okay, I can do this, and I'm right there, and we can work on single leg stuff with the TRX, a lot of core exercises because you're suspended. Think of a stability ball, like a big stability ball, iso ball. Like you can do a lot of stuff with that with the core. So it's a version of the stability ball without having this big rubber ball sitting out in the corner. I can hang it around and do a bunch of things with it. So you can kind of, do all the little pretty stuff and curls and stuff like there too.
So in your gym, that's primarily the mode you use it in, is getting people from, mobility or physical limitations to full depth or full scapular retraction or whatever it is before they go to the main lift.
Yeah, I'll use it as an auxiliary lift. People are rehabbing and they're cleared from physical therapists. I'll get a lot of those people, knees and shoulders and stuff like that. So they have a functional range of motion in their joint. They just need to get a little bit more out of it. So for like your knees or your hips or something like that, we need to get a little more depth out of that squat.
Okay.
They're functional, but we can get a little more depth out of it. And that just provides that safety that they're looking for.
All right.
So in terms of like putting it in groups, use it all the time for rows, use it all the time for inverted rows. We do a lot of core off of that stuff. Cause we just kind of, once again, what I like to smash posterior training.
Sure.
2-to-1 ratio is usually what I do. So for every front exercise, we do 2 back exercises.
I love that, man, because a strong back is a good back. I mean, basically, or I'd rather have a strong. I like to say I'd rather have a strong bad back than a weak bad back. You know what I mean? If you're gonna put it that way too.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Don't wish for lighter weights. Wish for a stronger back.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, I'm asking these questions because it's my show and I get to ask things that I want to learn about, but I know a lot of people listening also don't know about some of these things. So it's good to have options and people wondering, that's what I could do if I can't quite do this movement, is potentially look at, a TRX system or whatever.
My name is Tony. I'm a strength lifter in my 40s. Thank you to Phil and his Wits and Weights community for helping me learn more about nutrition and how to implement better ideas into my strength training. Phil has a very, very good understanding of macros and chemical compounds and hormones and all that. And he's continuously learning. That's what I like about Phil. He's got a great sense of humor. He's very relaxed, very easy to talk to. One of the greatest things about Phil, in my view, is that he practices what he preaches. He also works out with barbells. He trains heavy, not as heavy as me, but he trains heavy. So if you talk with him about getting in better shape, eating better, he's probably going to give you some good advice. And I would strongly recommend you talk with him and he'll help you out. Thanks.
Hey listeners, this is Philip Pape, and I'm excited to announce our upcoming totally free 21-day challenge starting December 1st. It's called the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge. This challenge is about learning how to achieve body recomposition. That's building muscle and losing fat at the same time without dieting or restriction throughout the holidays. I'll be giving you free videos, guides, and personalized coaching in a private group chat to help you enjoy the holidays while being satisfied and guilt-free. The kickoff call is Friday, November 17, and the link to enroll is in the show notes. No matter what episode you are listening to, don't worry. If you're hearing this after November 17, you can still register and get access to the replay and resources before the challenge starts on December 1st. Again, to join the Wits and Weights No Diet Holiday Body Recomp Challenge to build muscle and lose fat without dieting through the holidays, click the link in my show notes. Now back to the episode. So group classes. I did group classes for years in CrossFit. I've seen the benefits of it in terms of the camaraderie and the community and the efficiency and all these other things. One of the challenges that you as the coach have to split your time between people. So how do you do that with the power lifts and make sure people are using good form?
So we kind of cap our classes. I don't like to get 40 or 50 people in a class.
Yeah.
It's just, I can do it. It's not that I haven't done it. It's just, it can get sloppy, as you can see in some of these gyms. So I'll pair. You have to make a quick assessment of the class and who's in the class. You know who your strong ones are. You know who your ones are. You know your spectrum. Yeah. So I can kind of see what's going on, and it depends on how many people in the class. Sometimes I'll just throw all my strong people over on one side.
Okay.
You're all working on these barbells over here because I don't have to. I can see them from across the room and yell something, and they can click in. So I can focus more of my time over on the people who need a little bit more attention, and then I can progress them up. Right? It's not always like we start with PVC pipes a lot of the time.
Sure.
And then we just kind of build up from there. If it's a bigger, if I can just focus on those 2 or 3 and leave everybody else alone, quote unquote alone, then I'll do that. Sometimes you have to okay, who are my really, really strong people? Okay, I'm going to start pairing them in groups with people who need a little bit more attention because there's a lot of people who need a lot of attention. So then I trust them enough, and we're kind of in the same mindset that they can help coach me up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So like a buddy system.
Yeah. So that way, and it helps pull, I hate the term weaker, but it helps pull the weaker.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It helps bring them up and gets everybody incorporated and kind of helping each other out. So you have to make a quick assessment of who's in your class and what's going on. There's a lot of times you got heavy hitters in all your classes. Everybody's a heavy hitter. You're like, this is what we're doing. Don't kill yourself. Let's go.
It's pretty independent. Yeah.
Yeah. So independent study, but you kind of pair what's going on, and then you kind of see the new people, and you make a quick assessment on the fly, how they move. If they move correctly, or if they move in a safe manner. Mm-hmm. That's the goal in all group classes. Not everybody's going to want to get into the nuance of mastering that deadlift, but they want to deadlift. So you want to make sure we have everybody moving safely.
Yep. Okay.
Right? And moving safely. That's the number one goal. If we can move safely and I can push you and keep on pushing you, I'm going to keep on pushing you. But you kind of make that assessment of the individual. It's like, oh, okay, we've hit where you want to be.
Right.
And that's fine. That's where you want to be. Hopefully you'll see what's going on and come on through. But we want to move everybody safely.
Got it.
And that's all we want to do is just move everybody safely and move everybody as efficiently as we possibly can.
Yeah, so that sounds like an important thing that somebody who's looking for guidance, maybe, they're not looking for the attention or even the price point of personal training, but they also want to go on their own and figure it out, knowing that that safety is probably the number one thing. I mean, I know with form, talking to people, you want to be efficient, you want to have vertical bar path and all that so that you can lift the most weight. But at the end of the day, it comes down to avoiding injury and actually be able to do this for a long time.
Right.
So, yeah, it sounds like a good balance between that, as long as it's a well-run gym, sounds like yours is, that, manages the size and properly, pays attention to people that need it and so on. So that's cool. Right.
You always got to coach the individual, and in the group atmosphere, which I learned when I was doing the youth sports, the high school, the baseball team that you mentioned earlier. You kind of have to coach the individuals and then get people in a position to succeed,
right?
And get them in places where they can kind of be. Because if you worked in a commercial gym or ran commercial gyms or something like that, there's just people who just want to come in and just kind of move some weights, feel good, break a little bit of sweat, and go home. Nothing wrong with that. And then there's the ones who want to come in like, I am trying to get as big as a house and strong as a bear. Let's go.
Yep.
You're like, okay, let's go be that guy for a while,
yeah.
So we try to, because we believe in, or I certainly believe in those big 3 lifts, like the purpose of them. So we coach within that class, what we got going on, and then just kind of start putting people where they need to be, so they can get the most out of the class. I mean, it's a gym. People come to work out.
Yeah, for sure. They come to work out and maybe train. Like you said, the serious ones are there to train, and you get all kinds. So what about, you mentioned the youth sports. I want to talk about that for a second. This is a high level baseball team. high school baseball team that you coached. And these are athletes, right? And they're also young. And there's a whole bunch of things that make them different from the general population. Skill development, right? With the strength training, with the conditioning, with recovery, with periodization. So how do you make all that work?
So once again, you got to assess what you got yourself into. So, usually freshmen come in, we'll kind of go a little bit. Like freshmen that come in, you get two types of people. Ones who have been in the gym before and ones who have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. They have no idea. And that's fine. That's not their fault. That's just the way it is.
And does that includes very talented natural athletes that don't know anything, I imagine, right? Yeah,
they're great on the field. You get them in the gym and they can kind of muscle their way through some things, which
is an opportunity for you as a coach right there.
Yes. You go, okay, here we go. Generally speaking, like they're athletes, so they kind of understand how their hips move. And it's very interesting through high school as they mature and as they get bigger, how all of a sudden they're so uncoordinated because, they're 5'5", and then next year they're 6 feet. Right. You're like, oh, geez.
Center of gravity moved and everything. Yeah.
Everything's moved on them. So we go back to, we want them to move efficiently. We want them to move safely. That's the most important thing. We want to teach the movement patterns. Mm-hmm. Weight comes and load comes with time. We want to teach the movement patterns. So certainly with that new group that's coming in, you're like, okay, what do we got? What's going on? So we do a little bit more basic. Okay, let's work on these squats. Let's work on our push-ups. Let's get some pull-ups in there. Yeah, we will lift some weight because everyone wants to lift some weight. But we want to move them safely and as best as we can and work them through the programming goals and what we're trying to do because we want them to peak, obviously, at the right time. And we want them injury-free and all that other stuff. Our main goal in the strength room is to make sure they stay on the field and produce on the field. It doesn't matter what we're doing in the gym. If it affects their play on the field, what we're doing is wrong because that's where the magic happens is on the field in any sport, right? It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, he's out there crushing squats, but his legs are so blasted he can't move on the football field. It's like, well, then what was the point? Mm-hmm. That's what off season's for.
That's periodization. You got it. Yeah.
Right. So, we work through different parameters. We'll do kind of a stability phase, making sure everything's a lot of single-legged stuff, a lot of balance stuff, getting everything kind of back into the line. And then we'll go through kind of a strength power phase. Right, lifting weights just to kind of put some mass on. And when you're talking about high schoolers, you just got to do what you can to get some mass on them because their metabolism is just humming.
Yeah, right.
So anything you do,
always under eating, aren't they?
Always under eating. Always under drinking too. It's pretty amazing.
Gallon of milk a day. You give them that diet?
Wow. No,
it would work.
It would work. It would work. So, but we certainly give nutritional advice just to kind of like eat. You got to eat. And I'll be just happy just to get calories into you.
Right.
But, we coach them up that way, but we try to translate, try to get some weight on them, try to get some strength and get some power. So that way it translates on the field and it doesn't mess them up too much. And it's a give and take because you get some kids who know everything. And that's fine. And they want to do some wrist curls. You're like, well, why do you want to do wrist curls? Mark McGuire has huge forearms. It makes him hit bombs. I'm like, well, maybe, so, let's get to the program first. And then let's get, then you can do your wrist curls when we get through all the programs.
Well, maybe do the deadlift first and see if that develops your forearms, right?
Right. Well, and that is where you start to see like where the rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. You see where the animals are. You see the guys who are like, I just got by on tout, and that's what I'm just going to do. Mm. You see the guys who put the work. The guys who put the work in the gym are usually the ones who start and go have a long career,
right?
Athletically, be it going to college or into the pros or something like that. You can see it. The guys who put the work in, they get that extra set.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you go, oh yeah, they're like, oh, everybody else got 3, you got 4. Yeah. They go hard. So. We want everybody to move safely. When we get new kids in there, we want a kind of quick assessment. How does everybody move? Oh, okay. And then once again, start piecing people together to kind of see what's going on. And so that way I can focus on more attention here, or I can go over somewhere else and kind of yell a couple things. And they go, yeah, I got it. And then keep on going back over to here. And it levels out. It'll level out.
Yeah, cool. I love learning about this because I was never into athletics myself. I'm just a spectator sport viewer, and it's good to peer behind the curtain on the training side, because I know a lot of laymen or fans watch are like, want to criticize these strength and conditioning programs. And like you said, there maybe was a time that was the case and things have gotten better. Have you, do you still coach any youth sports or youth groups, maybe as part of your gym?
I do get high school athletes in here. I do it more of a one-on-one thing. So I will get some high school athletes in here. So I get more than one-on-one as opposed to the group. Our group classes are mostly just regular gym goers. And I joke. We have two, it's polar opposites. So we get all the CrossFitters who don't want to CrossFit anymore, but who like to lift.
Yeah.
So they'll come in here because we do a lot of the lifting.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of people who went to the big box gyms and just get lost. And they want to lift, but it's scary. Because it's scary. If you have no idea what's going on, you just see all the men and women over there lifting weights and looking good and all this other stuff. So a lot of the people we get just end up like, I just end up on the treadmill because that's the only thing I know how to do. Or little machines, because I can look at the picture and I don't even know if I'm getting anything done.
Yeah.
So we get the heavy hitters and we get the people we like to coach up from the ground up. So it's a lot of fun in terms of aspects like that. We want to make people move safely. That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I mean, I'm a nutrition coach, but I have all my clients strength training. That's like almost a requirement now of working with me. And a lot of them, are women. So I hear that as well. It's definitely a balance between do you have a home gym? And if not, what gym are you going to? Do they have the equipment? Are you worried about the culture there? Is that a problem? There's all these factors you have to, play into it. All right. So from one coach to another, I'm always curious about how we best serve and impact our clients, right? I think that starts by being clear on who you serve and choosing the right client. And I think that's one area you wanted to kind of touch on is how do you, as the coach, choose the right client?
Number one, are they looking for something that I provide? I think when we all kind of started in this industry, we tried to be everything to everybody. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Because you're just trying to pay. Yeah, you're just trying to pay some bills.
Yeah, you'll take anybody, right?
I'll take anybody you throw at me. And you just end up just getting so burnt out because you're like, I got everything. I'm all over the board.
Right.
And some people can do that. That's not me. I'm very singular in my focus. I've gotten a very, very narrow scope. Maybe even to my detriment. But like I said, I only do kettlebells for myself. I actually gave up the barbell October last year. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do kettlebells, at least for a year. I'm not going to touch a barbell. I'm going to not touch a dumbbell. I'm just going to do kettlebells. So, so when you get a new client who comes in, you go, okay, well, am I going to be the best person? We have multiple trainers here, but are we going to be the best people for this person? Because we want to set them up for success. We just don't want to come up here and just take their money and have them leave. That's just not who we are. So can I help this person? Right? Are they looking for something that I'm providing? Or do they want, I just blew my knee out and I need rehab. And you're like, well, I deadlift all day. It's like,
right.
I don't do rehab. It's just, you got to go to a physical therapist for that. So you kind of have to be like, who am I as a trainer and what do I provide? And will this person benefit from that? It's all about the person who's coming in. It's not about you. So will that person benefit from this? And if any of everybody has red flags. If a couple of your red flags pop up, you need to walk away from that one. Whatever your red flags are, everybody has them. Whatever your red flags are, you need to go, okay, like mine's crash dieting. I have 6 weeks to lose 40 pounds. I'm going to a wedding. I'm like, I'm not your person.
Nope. Yeah.
I'm not your person. I'm not going to do it. You can we do it? Yes. You don't want to do that. And I don't want to be the person to be like, you tell everybody I failed because my trainer didn't XYZ for me. It's like,
and if you think you're going to convince them otherwise after you get started, you're thinking you're wrong on that count, because they're just going to keep hammering that desire after they start with you. And like you said, it's going to be a problem.
It's going to be a problem. So you got to figure out what your red flags are and what you don't want. Because if you wake up in the morning, we've all had those days where you've had 2 or 3 clients back to back to back where you're like, oh my God, I am going to lose my mind. You know what I mean? Where they just suck the life, suck the life out of you. And that is not their fault. I've learned
that's your fault for choosing them.
That's my fault for choosing them. There is a person out there for them. You can walk away. It is okay. In the long run, it is much more beneficial for you and for them to turn somebody down and only take the people that are your ideal clients. It makes you want to work harder. It makes it fun for them to come in. It just checks all the boxes. I will say there's been some times where I've had a couple red flags go up, but the person ended up being fantastic. That's a rarity, but find out what your red flags are. Find out who you are as a trainer. This is what I do. I'm going to stay in this lane. Don't deviate. Stay in your lane and just find the people who want specifically that. And then after that, you can widen that lane a little bit, but this is who you are. This is what I do. This is who I am. I'm going to stay there. And I'm not doing anything else. And I will find those people who want it.
Yeah, and I totally agree, Will. And I would say it doesn't take long to figure that out if you're working with clients, because I went through the same thing as a nutrition coach. Was day one, had no idea, right? So you work with 5 people, and all of a sudden you're already realizing the things that you don't want to deal with, and it teaches you a lot in the moment. And the key, though, like you said, is to actually say no, because that's not going to just help you; it's going to help the client, because you're not going to give them what they want. So why would you? Why would you sign up with them? Great advice just for business in general, right? For anybody trying to find a client.
Yeah, and that's kind of the burden of the industry that we're in, especially if you're in the personal training business. If you're not, if you're doing a lot of one-on-one stuff, that's your bread and butter. That's tough because you're either working your clients or you're spending all your time trying to get the clients that left to try to fill those spots. It's that feast or famine. You know what I mean? So when you're in a famine, you're just like, I'll take anything that I can get. I need to pay some bills. I got to put gas in the car and all that other stuff. And that's kind of the cycle that a lot of people get into. I'll mobile train. Let's go to the park. I'll do whatever I have to do, Sure. So it's kind of one of like, who are you? What do you do? And stay in that lane and then build from that. It might be a slower process and it might hurt a little bit, but in the long run, it's going to be so much better. I'd rather have somebody be like, yo, this person didn't take me, he's a jerk, as opposed to like, he took thousands of dollars from me and didn't get any results.
Yeah, that's what I think all the time. Exactly.
Yeah, that's pick one. Yeah. I'll pick being a jerk for not taking you. I'll take
that's integrity. That's integrity
at a certain point. Yeah. And once again, I've been wrong. I've been like, I don't know if this is going to work out. You go, my bad. More times than not, I went, I know I shouldn't have done this. I don't do it very much anymore. But in the beginning, you just take what you can get. And so find who you are, stay in your lane, and then find the people to fill into those little places that you're looking.
Right. And I like to think of it too as there's non-negotiables, like identify the things you absolutely will never, ever, ever want to deal with. And right there, that's an easy filter. Yes. And then maybe you have the list of things that are like lukewarm, like if there's 1 or 2 of these lukewarm things that pop up, but everything else is green, that's fine. Yes. Right.
Yes.
You can kind of make that list for yourself.
Yeah. And it depends on the individual. I know people who have a high tolerance and who just take the people that nobody wants, and they just seem like, I'll take them all. Like, you are just the patience of a saint.
You're asking for it.
And they're happy and you're happy. Fine. That's fine. But, you want to set people up for success because they're coming to you for results. We're in the result business. Yeah. This is the result business.
That's right. Outcomes, results.
We are in the result business. This is not... a lot of those results are scalable results, as in, I weigh less, Right. So if you want to be a weight loss person, then be that weight loss person, know. So you just got to find who you are and then find the people who want to be in that spot.
For sure. Well, that's great advice, Will. I want to ask one more question that I like to ask of all guests, and that is, What one question did you wish I had asked, and what's your answer?
Where can you get some kettlebells? Ha!
Oh,
Yeah, no.
okay. You sell them?
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I should have set myself up.
Yeah.
What's the biggest struggle that sometimes we have as trainers, or owning a business? What's the biggest struggle sometimes of owning the business? And how do you navigate those waters? It's social media is a big thing now in terms, because you get lost, you get lost out there because there's so many. If I have to see another glute shot, I swear I'm gonna lose my mind.
The algorithm. The algorithm. As soon as you say you like anything fitness related, that's all you see, right?
Seriously, you like one professional bodybuilding woman, then all of a sudden you see one video, and then all of a sudden you're like, why do I have this in my feed? This is driving me crazy.
My wife's like, what are you looking at over there? I'm like, look, I just want to show you what's in my I'm going to be totally honest. Like, we communicate. This is what happens when I look at just one guy talking about his strength training program. They show a bunch of women with glute shots.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The algorithm. If I have to see another one of those, I'm going to lose my cotton picking mind. Yeah. It's ridiculous, but owning a business is out here in California has been a bit of a challenge over the last couple of years, especially a gym in Los Angeles. It's combative, to say the least, with some of the rules and the regulations that we got going on over here. But
you mean the government getting up in your stuff, right? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything, sir. All right.
And I live in Connecticut, but I often say things that you wouldn't know I lived here. So not usually on my show, though.
Right. Yeah. Let's stay in between the screws on that one. Yeah. But yeah, it's a challenge out here. You kind of have to navigate those waters and you got to be and you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the business. You got to enjoy all the little craziness of it, because it can be, like I said earlier, it can be feast or famine. It really can be feast or famine. It can be really, really scary times sometimes, really, really scary times. Yeah. And so how do you stay mentally tough through it? And how do you stay focused on it? And how do you organize yourself? And how do you get your own training in? Because I'm in this industry because I like to lift heavy weights.
Right. You help other people do it, which is great.
I enjoy making people lift heavy weights.
Yes. More people need to do that. Everyone listening, hopefully they're inspired to do that. And if they're in your area, they need to look you up. So speaking of that, where can listeners learn more about you and your work?
So you can go to our website at builtstrongstrength.com, all one word. It has all our information there. It's got all our contact information. We do have downloadable programs. So we do have specifically a kettlebell program, a big three program. We're just bases around the big three. And we have a mass strength and power program, which is a 4-month programming of let's get after it and let's bend some iron and let's get crazy. So we do have those programs available for you. And then if you're in the Los Angeles, specifically Chatsworth area, you can come by and say hi to us. And we offer a week free and all that other stuff, newsletters. So you can sign up for all that stuff on our website at builtstrongstrength.com.
There you go, builtstrongstrength.com. I'll put that in the show notes. People can go and find a ton of great resources, reach out to you. And I know they learned a ton from watching this. So again, I want to appreciate you for coming on the show, Wil.
Thanks for having me, man. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on your show. It's a good time.
Yeah, awesome. If you've been inspired by today's interview and are ready to take action and build momentum on your health and fitness journey, just schedule a free 30-minute nutrition momentum call with me using the link in my show notes. I promise not to sell or pitch you on anything, but I will help you gain some perspective and guidance so we can get you on the right track toward looking and feeling your best.